Hello, hello, hello.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Nestor.
Hey, Justin, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Hey,
Trying to
thank you for
stay
joining.
warm over here.
Is it cold over there?
It's getting there.
Okay, yeah, this week is gonna be insane.
Yeah,
This week and then the upcoming week is gonna be really cold.
yeah.
Cool. Well, hey, thank you for joining. So before
Yeah.
we get started, let me talk to you a little bit about the podcast. So people who are totally new to the podcast, they know what exactly we do here, and then we can go from there. Does it sound fair
Okay.
to you?
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay, awesome. So, the Studying Entrepreneur, for those who are totally new, is all about celebrating the power of entrepreneurship to transform lives and change the world. It's quite simple, quite straightforward. We want to inspire entrepreneurs, and of course, we have really nice and really knowledgeable entrepreneurs who want to share their stories. And this is the time, and this is the platform. So, like I said before, you are tuned into the Stunning Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Nestor Adriansen. Today, we've got a special treat for you. Justin Siebert is in the house. So, Justin, how have you been again?
I've been great. Thanks for having me on. When you asked me to come on to a podcast called The Stunning Entrepreneur, I was like, entrepreneur. That's a word that I uh, had not really identified with before, and that'll come out a little bit more in my story whenever I share some more of it. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited to kind of share a little bit about how I ended up where I am with Siebert Science, and yeah, and all of that.
Awesome. Yeah, like you said, it's at the beginning, it's like entrepreneur. I'm not sure if I'm doing something related to entrepreneurship, but like you said, it's a process. It's a change in our mindsets, if that makes sense.
Right.
So, Justin, why don't you tell us more about yourself, more about your background for those who don't know you yet? Tell us more about yourself in a few words, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah. So I am I'm in education. I've been teaching at the same school for 12 years now here in Memphis, Tennessee, and when I went to college, I had all these things I was interested in. I love science. At various points, I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to. At one point, I realized I wanted to teach and work toward education and providing better education opportunities for everyone. And so I had all these things I was interested in, and ended up realizing that education is what I wanted to do. So I did Memphis Teacher Residency after college, is how I ended up here in Memphis. Um, and then at no point was I like, hey, I'm going to try to start my own business or anything like that. That was never I never had that sort of, for the most part. I can think of a few exceptions from childhood maybe, but I never had like a huge entrepreneur kind of mind or outlook. And it wasn't until I kind of got into this a little bit, making videos for my students, that I, did start to think about this a little bit as a business, and how to grow it and all that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I've been teaching for 12 years, still a full-time teacher. So the YouTube and Siebert Science, I kind of do on the side right now. So yeah.
yeah. So that was one of the questions that I had in mind. So you mentioned that you in your family you didn't have that you weren't surrounded by entrepreneurs. So
Mhm.
it was totally new for you. So no
Yeah.
one in your family had the entrepreneurial mindset or background.
Not really. No. I did have the one story I was thinking of that comes to mind is kind of a funny story. When I was in middle school,
Mhm.
kids would buy these snacks, and I came up with, this was my first business venture, and it
Mhm.
didn't last very long, but I decided to start loaning people money, because they'd be like, I want to buy chips, I want to buy a soda, and they need 50 cents, they need $1. And what I would do is I'd have my little bag of money, and I would loan them 50 cents, I'd loan them $1, and then in interest they'd have to pay me back that amount plus 50%, which is a huge interest rate. Um, but they would do it. They would borrow $1, and then the next day they'd pay me back $1.50 or whatever, and it worked well. And I was making money, and I just wouldn't loan again if somebody didn't pay me back. So a few people didn't pay me back, and I just wrote that off, and so I started making a little bit of money from that, like um, But then I found that I didn't get to eat my own lunch because there were so many kids coming to me, like doing the loans, and I was keeping track of it and all this stuff. And it was just getting in the way of me enjoying my lunchtime. And the teachers would have cut it off eventually. I think they were starting to pick up on there's something going on here.
Right.
But so I had that was my first business venture. But that was kind of it. There wasn't any other point where I was trying to create a business or make money or anything like that.
Mhm.
Wow, I got that idea in middle school. I have, though, always been interested in creating things.
Mhm.
I didn't realize that I was into that until like pretty late in life as an adult. But I can look back and see how even as a kid, I'd want to like draw video game characters and video game levels and stuff. And a
Mhm.
few times I tried to write stories, and it was just like these little kind of silly creative things that I did. But then later on, I started to realize like, hey, I really like creating things, whether that's, I like making a really nice looking worksheet for my classes, making it look nice and presentable, or I like, obviously with YouTube videos, that's been a big thing for me. So I like making digital things that look nice, that I'm proud of, that people get value from. And I think, but I can trace that back to, when I was a kid. I just didn't realize it. I was identified as like I'm a math person. I'm a science person. That's kind of what I'm into. And I was never like into art and creativity kind of stuff,
Mhm.
part of my identity. But I could look back now and see like, oh, I actually really was energized by some of those things. I just didn't have a way to share those because, at that point, the internet was pretty new and didn't know how
Mhm.
to create a website or start sharing all those things, and do any of this kind of stuff. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. So one of the things that I always think about is, because to your point, I started doing YouTube tutorials as well in probably my late 30s, maybe mid
mm,
30s. And then when I think about my past, my story, I I kind of regret why I didn't start sooner.
sure.
So it's really a thought that I have when I think about my journey. But
Mhm.
anyways, so where are you from, Justin? Tell us more about your background. So you're not from the area, right? You're not from Memphis. You came
No,
from a
no.
different state.
Yeah, I grew up in Missouri near St. Louis,
Mhm.
and went to college in Missouri, and then um, after college, excuse me, it's in my throat.
Mhm.
At the end of college, I decided I wanted to do teaching, um, and I applied to a few teaching programs. One in Denver, Colorado, where I'd been a few times, and really wanted to go to Denver. I really like the city and the state. But then I applied to Memphis Teacher Residency, a program here in Memphis, and the selection weekend they kind of won me over. The program just really stood out to me, and I was like, this is something I want to be a part of. So I really moved to Memphis for that teaching program,
Mhm.
um, and that's been great. Memphis MTR has been a huge help on my journey in education, and I still do some things with them. Like I'll lead some professional development workshops and stuff here and there with them, and um, so that's been a great program. But so yes, I moved to Memphis, got into teaching, realized how hard it was. It somehow stumbled my way through the first few years, and I'm still in it now, working at a great school. Um, so yeah.
That's good. That's good. So what would you tell people who want to move to Memphis? What would be your pieces of advice
Yeah,
based
yeah,
on based on your experience? Because
yeah.
some people might say, "Hey, I don't want to go to Memphis."
Sure, sure.
What would be your pieces of advice for them?
Yeah, yeah. This is kind of just based off of my experience a little bit, but I think there
Mhm.
are a lot of great programs in Memphis. There's definitely a push to get more people here, to get young people who are excited about whether that's education or community development or entrepreneurship, whatever it is. There's organizations that are trying to get people here to Memphis. So MTR, Memphis Teacher Residency, is one. Choose 901 is an organization that's all about promoting Memphis and sharing the great things happening in Memphis. And I know Memphis has tends to get kind of a bad reputation. And we've got a lot of, kind of issues that we have, and things that we're trying to work through, and a lot of, just a lot of just because of the city's history, a lot of just hurt that's happened in the city, over its history. But there's also just a lot of good happening, and a lot of people who are coming here to pour into the city, and that sort of thing. So I think Memphis is a great place where you can get involved, and you can, and make a difference and be part of a great community. So I love Memphis, and I encourage people to come here. And if people are looking to come here, find a program who's already doing great things in Memphis, and find a way to join in, with the people who are already doing, great work here in the city.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Get involved with that community as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely something that people should keep in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So I know we talked about this in the past. So you used to play for the Grizzlies, for the basketball team. So what's going on there? Tell us more about basketball.
If somebody's tuning in and they see that and they see me, they're like, this guy did not play for the Grizzlies. I play for the Memphis Rolling Grizzlies wheelchair basketball team. So I started playing basketball in middle school. I got injured. I use a wheelchair. If you're viewing here, you can't see the setup that I've got here, but I use a wheelchair. I was in a car wreck when I was 9 years old. It's a spinal cord injury. So my some of the nerves in my spinal cord were stretched and twisted and damaged. And so I sort of lost ability to use my legs. And so that happened when I was 9 years old in third grade. And then I found out about a local wheelchair basketball team from a teacher in the school. Her daughter used a wheelchair. And so I started playing basketball. I played basketball, tennis, softball, but basketball is the one that kind of stuck because there's just more opportunities to play. And so in high school, I played on a team, and then I went to college. I went to the University of Missouri, and I played on their collegiate division wheelchair basketball team. So that was all of that experience was pretty formative. It's how I got to know other people with disabilities, other people use wheelchairs, and stuff. So that's just been really powerful in my own life. So when I moved to Memphis, I actually looked online for a wheelchair basketball team and didn't think there was one. They just didn't have a very strong online presence. It wasn't until I'd been here a couple years, and then kind of through a friend of a friend, found out about the wheelchair basketball team. And a buddy of mine who I played wheelchair basketball with in Memphis, he moved here. And so we both started playing with the wheelchair basketball team here in Memphis. And so that's just been awesome to work with that program and to kind of help be part of expanding it a little bit. We've got a kids team now that we're starting, a youth team. And so we partner a little bit with the Grizzlies, and they help us out a little bit financially. But we do a lot of our own fundraising and everything. And so a lot of what we do is try to work with organizations, get funding so that we can open up sports to people with disabilities. But we're a competitive team. We travel. We went to Orlando, Florida this year and won a tournament down there, which was pretty fun experience.
That's awesome.
We've been to Auburn, Alabama, and played some of the college teams and stuff down there. And then we're revving up for nationals in April in Richmond, Virginia. That's kind of where we're headed. Where we've got our kind of eyes on the goal there to compete at in the national tournament. So that's been a big part of my time here in Memphis, and probably my, besides YouTube, which I don't know if I can classify YouTube as a hobby anymore. That used to be my hobby. Now it's creeping up into the work business kind of side of things a little bit. But I say wheelchair basketball has been a great kind of hobby and athletic activity for me since a long time ago, and then continuing on here in Memphis.
Yeah, that's good. Like I said before, getting involved with that community it's really, really helpful. You make new connections, and also you can share common interests. And for this particular case, you are sharing your basketball skills. So that's good. So if you don't mind asking you, you had this injury in the past, this accident. So how did you handle that? Being just a normal kid without any type of disability, and then suddenly, boom. this
Yeah, yeah,
dramatic change? How do you handle it? How do you overcome that change?
yeah, yeah.
I,
That's a
I
great
believe
question.
I believe this would be a good example for those who are in the same situation, something that can help
Yeah,
them, receive some encouragement.
sure, sure. Yeah, it's a great question. My experience. So I was 9 years old,
Hmm.
and a lot of times when I tell people, I was 9 years old when I got injured, their first thought is like, "Wow, that must have been really, really tough being that young." And obviously, I just have one data point, kind of to base this off of my own experience, right? But I
Hmm.
think going through it at a younger age is probably easier than going through it as an adult. So when I was 9 years old, what were the I didn't have career aspirations. I didn't have a job. I didn't have all I, what I was just interested in playing video games and being silly and having fun. Of course, I was in school. I was in third grade. So I had school stuff, but so it was a huge change and adjustment. Suddenly this accident happened where we hit we were at a it was really foggy. It was super early in the morning, and we thought we were at a four-way intersection. There was a green light, and we're actually at a T intersection. So we collided um, into the stoplight pole and the concrete barrier, the concrete, at the bottom of that. And so yeah, so like we went through that. I remember sort of being conscious for a little bit of that, and then kind of the next thing I remember is like being in the hospital. And at that point, I'd had back surgery, um, and I couldn't use my legs, and so I remember getting in a wheelchair kind of for the first time, and not and asking the nurse or the doctor, whoever was there, like, how do I turn it? Like I didn't know how to, So I was learning all these things. I was learning how to, how do I get in and out of my wheelchair? What happens if I flip over my wheelchair? What happens if you know, how do I get dressed and all this stuff? Like
Hmm.
I was relearning all these things, but I was also still just like a kid. And so it happened in October in 1996. And I remember over Halloween, as just an example, over Halloween, me and my roommate in the hospital, we turned our hospital room into like a little haunted house. And I had this like little karaoke machine that I'd gotten as a present or something. And we put that in the bathroom. We'd lock the nurses in the bathroom and we pretend we were monsters and we're going to like, eat the nurses or, all this sort of, and so, you know, all that to say, the point I'm making is like, when I think back to like my time, those couple months I was in the hospital, I was just a 9-year-old kid trying to be silly and have fun. And I definitely did go through it over those next several years, and even beyond. I went through times where I was just like, hey, why did this happen to me? And like, why do I have to be the one that's like different from my classmates and all that kind of thing? All that kind of normal grieving process, and processing stuff. But I didn't have to relearn like a job or a career, or I didn't have to relearn how to be a dad. I didn't have to relearn how to be a husband, because I wasn't any of those things yet. All I was a kid, a son, um, and all of that. And so yeah, so it was definitely hard, I think, but it was in some ways less hard than if I was an adult, because I just hadn't developed my identity as
Hmm.
much as a kid. You're still, you haven't even started to kind of figure out who you are yet, I think, in a lot of ways, at that point. And so I could still kind of figure out, who I was without having to start back over in that sense.
Hmm.
Um, and most of thinking back to like what were my struggles in middle school and high school, and I think they were the same thing that everybody else was probably struggling with, like, you know, uh, how do I be cool in front of my friends, or how do I, how do I get girls to like me, or um, how do I get good grades without doing too much work? All the things that you're thinking about in high school and middle school were similar for me. Um, but I think, what advice would I give to somebody going through something like that? I would say, if you're
Hmm.
if you're a parent of a kid going through something like that, find some wheelchair sports, find other groups of kids with the similar disability, whether you're connecting with them online or somewhere else. I think that's or in person, even better. But find some place, where your kid can not be the only person that looks like them and whatever, or is going through the same thing as them. And then if you're an adult, I would say find the same thing. Find other adults who are in a similar situation. Because I think when somebody goes through something like this, a lot of times, especially at an older age, a lot of times they're like, hey, I don't know what I can do. Like, I don't know, can I drive a car again? You know, that's the
Mhm.
question that they might have. And but then if if they meet somebody like me or like the other guys that I play wheelchair basketball with and stuff, they'll be like, oh yeah, everybody's driving here to practice. Like
Mhm.
everybody's got, and several of us have families and all these things. So I think kind of like you mentioned earlier about this idea of community, find community, um, find other people who are doing the same thing. I think it's just such a powerful thing, and you realize like I'm not alone. There's other people going through the same stuff. Um,
Mhm.
so
That's good. Thank you for sharing that. And
yeah.
I remember that you don't use this disability as an excuse. And I remember that you mentioned you traveled to Colombia, South America.
Mhm.
Tell
Yeah,
us
yeah.
more about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was very fortunate to be able to take advantage of a lot of opportunities in college and use my summers
Mhm.
to go do some cool stuff. And so um there was like 3 summers in a row where one summer I took classes, and that was kind of just terrible. I was like, oh man, I'm just taking classes in the summer. The next summer I did a through my church in college, I did a leadership training program, which is really cool. We went to Estes Park, Colorado, and we worked there at the YMCA of the Rockies, in the mountains. It was just really
That's cool.
beautiful. And then we did some like leadership training stuff on top of that, and it was a really great experience. And through that, um, I had gone down to Denver, and started going to a church called Scum of the Earth, um, which is it's a really cool church where like I'd say in a nutshell, it's like a church where you can go and you don't have to look a certain way. Like everybody there is like dressed very casually. There's a lot of homeless people that go there, and it's just this really cool place that they had built at this church. And then I got involved a little bit with the Denver Rescue Mission and connected there a little bit. So the next summer, um, I interned with the Denver Rescue Mission,
Mhm.
which is really cool. And just learned a lot there. I kind of dabbled in some education stuff and realized that I had no idea what I was doing. That was part of my journey of getting into teaching and stuff and realizing that's what I wanted to do. And then um, through a connection from there, I found about this organization in Medellin, Colombia. Um, and so a guy that was familiar with them was like, hey, yeah, contact this person if you want to go there over the summer. And so I dove in with that, and I went to Medellin, Colombia by myself. Flew there to work with this organization, to kind of volunteer with them. And I don't know that I contributed much that summer, but I definitely learned a lot that summer, just about international travel. Had a lot of experiences where I was like the only person who maybe knew English and had some, I feel like I gained a lot of empathy for people who go to another country, um, and just navigating like language barriers and stuff. And I had studied a little bit of Spanish, um, and really part of my wanting to go to Colombia, part of my wanting to learn Spanish was at that leadership training program in Estes Park, Colorado. There's a lot of summer staff that they would hire because that's when people are coming into that area. Because it like snows here like most of the year, and then the summers when they have people coming in there in Colorado. And so there was a lot of international summer staff that they hired, and there's this group of people from Colombia who didn't speak much English, and I didn't know any Spanish. And so I remember having various interactions with them where we're communicating with each other, and they're super friendly and super outgoing, but I just like couldn't communicate much. And that's where I had this moment of like, oh, that's why people learn a language, because I'd taken a couple years of French in high school, and I was like, what's the point of this? Like I didn't know anybody who spoke French or whatever. So I had that experience. I was like, oh, maybe I could learn Spanish, and then there's all these other places I could go. So when I got back to college, I signed up for a couple Spanish classes and learned some very basic Spanish. Went to Colombia that next or a couple summers later, and um, but yeah, it was going to Medellin was a difficult experience. I would say I was lonely in a lot of ways, just um, but also just a really formative and powerful experience for me, being there. And so yeah, I had to learn a lot of, and I did get to meet up. This was kind of cool. While I was there, I did send some emails and met up with a wheelchair basketball team there. And so I went there and kind of played with them, practiced with them a little bit. I didn't have I played basketball in a different wheelchair. Playing a basketball in an everyday wheelchair like what I've got now is
It's really difficult.
not very good. Yeah, it would. It's definitely not made for playing basketball. So I didn't have like my basketball, but it was fun just to go there and kind of shoot around with them and and make some other connections with people who are going through similar things that I am, but in a different context, a different country, and a different experience. So,
yeah, that's definitely encouraging, and you were brave. You go to a different country, different language, different everything. So
yeah, I remember the first it was like one of my first days there. I remember I rode more new types of transportation for the first time in like one day than I had I rode on a motorcycle with somebody, and then I took a taxi for the first time, and then I rode in their metro cable, metro cable, the transit system where it's like these cable cars that go up over up over these mountains and stuff. So I did all these different public transit things I'd never done before, like all in one day. I was just like new experience overload a little bit. But yeah, I would say, I'm thankful that I was able to use those summers to do some just to gain more experience and try new things. So if there's any college students watching this, or any high school students, like use your summers, because most people don't get those again. Like you get it unless you become a teacher or something. Like you don't get those kind of summers off where you can go do new things and do internships and volunteer and all these different kind of things. So.
Yes, that's definitely really good advice. Awesome. So now let's keep moving and let's talk about your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So I know you have a YouTube channel. When did you create your YouTube channel again? It was back in 2019, 2020.
I don't know when I'd have to. I think it was like. So it depends on what you mean by started my YouTube channel. So when did I first upload a YouTube video? I think that was maybe back in 2013 or 2014 or something. I think it was a while ago. And so with that, I wasn't quote unquote starting a YouTube channel at that point. I was like, I was making a video for my students and I needed an easy way to share it. And kind of just a place to host it online. And so YouTube, I looked up and was like, oh, YouTube's an easy way to do that. So, so I made what had happened is I had a lesson that I taught. It was about the spinal cord. And I'd asked my students, I thought I'd taught the lesson pretty well, but I asked my students a question about reflexes and, about like a spinal cord injury, right? Which I have a spinal cord injury. And so but students weren't able to answer the question, so they didn't really get this concept of the signal traveling through the spinal cord, from the brain to the spinal cord to cause movement, or to the muscles to cause movement, or when you feel something, right, the signal travels from maybe your skin or wherever you're feeling something through a nerve to your spinal cord, then up the spinal cord into the brain. If it doesn't make it to the brain, then you don't feel it, right? So with my injury, if I touch my knee, I don't feel that because the signal makes it to my spinal cord and then the signal stops. The signal doesn't get to my brain, then I don't feel that sensation. So I asked my students about this and they weren't able to answer. And so I was like, maybe I could just try recording a video about it and have my students watch it for homework so that we weren't spending more class time on this. So I went home and I tried it out. I had an iPad app called Doceri, which is an amazing app. I really love the app. It's one of my favorite apps. It's no longer supported. So I've had to move on to other things in my video production and stuff. But it was what I used to annotate on the whiteboard whenever I would teach. I would have the iPad in my lap and I could use the Apple Pencil and I'll be drawing on the iPad and then it would annotate my PowerPoint slides and stuff on the screen. That way I didn't have to be up at the whiteboard, kind of stuck there. And also with my wheelchair, it's hard to reach the top of the whiteboard and that sort of thing. So it really worked. But it also had a screen recording feature and an audio recording feature. So I could just like hit play and I could play back through what I'd written and record a video. So I used that and another app on the computer kind of combined so I could show my face and stuff. And I recorded this video. The quality is really low. You can find it on my YouTube channel. It's about called spinal cord injury physiology, I think. So I posted that on YouTube. I had my students watch it. They took notes on it and turned those in. And I kind of got the bug a little bit. I was like, I want to create more of these and do what we call a flipped classroom model. And so in a flipped classroom model, students at home will watch a video and take notes on it. And then in class, instead of just like listening to the teacher talk, they can jump into doing practice kind of right away. So it's flipping the direct instruction to the homework. And then in class, you're doing more of the practice where you can get input from your teacher and stuff. And so it's a model that I still like. Some teachers, it works well for them. Some teachers, it doesn't. But if you like making videos, I like it a lot. And so I wanted to do more of those videos, but I was also a young teacher. I was in I was maybe in my third year of teaching or second year of teaching or something. And making videos, Nestor, as you know, it's not a quick process. Like there's a lot involved in it. And for me, I had to draw a diagram out. I had to kind of do the animations for it. I had to record it, and then I had to edit it. And then it was just a lot. And as a teacher, I was already taking a lot of work home at that point. And so I'd made a few more videos, but I just wasn't able to keep up with it. And so I was at a few points I was kind of discouraged because I wanted to make more, but I just didn't have the capacity to. And so that was back, maybe 10 years ago or something. And then I had made a few more videos here and there, but not a lot. And then the pandemic hit, and that, and in education, that like changed everything. And it was very sudden. I remember we were on a trip over spring break. We were in Texas, and I remember like looking at my phone, all these things happening. And I saw that the NBA had gotten canceled, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like things are about to change. Like they just canceled a whole sports season. This is that's like people are losing out on millions or billions of dollars or something. So like this is a thing that's about to change everything. And it was like the next day or two where we got the call that it was like, hey, we're going virtual. Mm-hmm. We have a second week off to where we're going to kind of figure out what school is going to look like this. And it was just, I don't need to talk about it. Everybody's been through a similar experience, but so then I was like, okay, we suddenly switched to asynchronous classes for that final semester of that was in 2020 for that final quarter. So I was like, well, I have a little bit of experience making videos. We're going to asynchronous stuff. We're just kind of posting assignments to finish out the year and students do them. I'm like, how are my students going to learn this stuff? I was teaching physics at the time. How are they going to learn this physics material? I was like, well, let me try making videos. So I sat down. I remember I went to my computer. I sat down and I was using a program on my computer called ScreenFlow, and it kept crashing on me. I was on like an older MacBook Air. I didn't have like a souped up computer. It was kind of entry level Mac, and it kept crashing on me, and I was just getting frustrated, and I'd like wasted all this time, and I felt like I kind of had this moment where I was like, I'm wasting time where I should be like hanging out with my family, and I've got nothing to show for it because this keeps crashing and I haven't produced a video. And I was just like, I was ready to just like throw in the towel and just be like, I'm done. I'm not going to try to make a video anymore. Like, this is stupid. So I was very frustrated. I took a little bit of time off, a few hours or whatever. And that night I like regained my composure. I tried it again and I got it to work, and I created this video. And then that rest of that quarter, I made several more videos for my physics class, and that went pretty well. And I don't know, at that point I had like a few hundred subscribers on YouTube or something, but it wasn't like a thing that it was on my mind of like, hey, I'm going to try to monetize. So right. From there, the next year I was teaching anatomy, and we were going to be synchronous. So like I would be on like a Zoom call with students, but I still wanted to do the flipped classroom thing. And I thought that would work really well because I had fewer contact hours with students. We only had like we didn't want students to be on the computer like for 8 or 9 hours, like in a row. We just thought that that was probably just not good for their mental health and different things. So we
Mm-hmm.
had like a shortened class day. So I only saw my students a couple hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, how do I kind of do this the best way I can? So I started doing anatomy videos. And that year I had extra time because we had afternoons to kind of work on planning and different stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I had all this extra time to make videos. And I really just, and I had hard deadlines. I was like, all right, I'm teaching endocrine system on Friday. So I got to get my video done by Wednesday, so I had this so I was very motivated. I had clear deadlines and I had time to do it. And it was the pandemic. So like there wasn't as many opportunities to go out and do things and meet up with people and stuff. So and there's a lot of teachers. If you find a teacher that's on YouTube, there's a good chance that they have a similar story to mine, like where the pandemic hit and they started making videos, But I made a lot of videos that year and just a lot of anatomy videos. And throughout that year, I saw my subscriber count start to climb and I saw my watch time count start to climb. And I got close to that 4,000 hours that you needed at the time on YouTube. And so that was like my goal. Is like by the end of this school year, maybe I could hit monetization. And, I remember
Uh-huh.
hitting 1,000 subscribers, hitting that, and then eventually hitting that monetization and seeing like, how much am I going to make, and I had very low expectations. And, I was making like $1 a day, and I even created a YouTube video that was like, how much did I make in my first month of monetization? And, it's like, I'm averaging $1.50 or something, maybe. I forget what it was, but, so the next year I started making physics. So I switched back and forth between physics and anatomy each year. It's a small school that I work at. And, so the next year I was teaching physics. And so I started making a lot of physics videos. And I think I did a great job of that. I think I made some really high quality physics videos for the content that I was teaching. I think they're really good. But nobody watched. I mean, my students watched them, but nobody else. They weren't picking up any views or anything. I think the market's saturated on YouTube for physics videos, whereas I think anatomy, and I can talk about this a little bit more in a bit, but I think with anatomy, I had like a little bit of an advantage that made my videos stand out a little bit in anatomy. But so I was making these physics videos, and then I ended up kind of getting a promotion at work, where now I do curriculum instruction support for teachers. So I'm kind of like coaching teachers and stuff. I still teach AP chemistry. This is the only class that I teach. So I teach one class, but most of my job is more kind of the leadership side and teacher coaching and stuff. So I kind of stopped making videos and started focusing on this other aspect of my job. And what I went through a period of maybe 8 or 9 months where I didn't make a single video.
Mm-hmm.
And but my channel kept growing and my like views kept growing. And so I think I've been very lucky in that aspect that the content that I made, like people keep finding it, YouTube keeps recommending it, and my views keep growing. And so I hit a point where I was like, hey, I'm making maybe $10 a day or something on this. This is starting to feel like something that if I put some effort into, like, could be like a really good opportunity for me. And so,
Mm-hmm.
so then at the end of that year, I decided, hey, I'm not teaching anatomy anymore. I'm not teaching physics. But anatomy is where I'm like growing. Like most of my views are coming from my anatomy videos.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided, hey, let me make a video for YouTube versus making it for my students and posting it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started, my first video was a video on the shoulder joint. That was specifically for YouTube. And I found it a lot harder to do because it was content like I'd not taught the shoulder joint in my anatomy classes specifically. And so I was like, one, I had to like learn the content.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't already learned it to teach it. I had to learn it for this video. And then I had to like draw it out and I had to figure out, what do I include and what do I not include? For my students, that was easy. It's like, I kind of already, what do I want them to learn about this? And what are the main things I want them to learn? But with creating it for YouTube, I'm like, I don't know, if it's a med school student, they got to learn every little part of it probably. And if it's I just got a little thumbs up there.
That's good.
Yeah, the I think is that an Apple thing?
It might be.
If you do the, yeah.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, I think if Now I lost my train of thought. I've completely derailed the whole thing.
Uh,
Um,
so you were working on your video for your students, and
yeah,
then
yeah. So then I was trying to figure out like, okay, so what do I include? Do I talk about every ligament? Do I talk about just the muscles? Do I talk about the all the different parts of the bones, or just the main thing? And so I found the video making process is a lot harder now because there's a steeper learning curve for the content, and then there's harder decisions to make about what do I include and not include in order to like kind of reach the most people on YouTube. So I did do an informal YouTube poll and found that even though most of my videos are made for my high school anatomy students, juniors and seniors in high school anatomy, most of my views are coming from undergraduate students taking an anatomy class. And then my second demographic was med school. So maybe those first 2 years of med school, you're doing kind of anatomy, learning all the anatomy and stuff. And then my third highest demographic was high school.
High school.
So kind of a smaller percentage there of high school students.
Shift.
So yeah, so a shift. So now, like as I'm making videos, I'm tending to include kind of more details and going a little bit more in depth to try to hit that particular demographic, while also still retaining what I think is like what's maybe sets my videos apart from other videos that are out there. So there's a lot of videos out there. For the most part, the videos that are out there in anatomy, there's either like slides, like PowerPoint slides or Google slides that people are talking over, and so they'll show a diagram. And so maybe you've got a diagram for a really complex system. Like I recently did a video on the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, which is this feedback loop with all these hormones and organs involved, and there's all this stuff going on. And in the video, and in a lot of videos, it'll show that diagram all at once. For a lot of people, like that's pretty overwhelming. Like it's just like you can open up a textbook and find that. So what's different about my videos then? Every video that I do, I've drawn out the diagrams and everything on my iPad ahead of time, but I have them drawn out to where I can show them like one piece at a time. When you first see this diagram, instead of seeing
all at once,
instead of seeing all at once, instead of seeing 10 hormones and 8 organs and 20 arrows on the diagram or whatever, all I'm showing you at once is like, here's like the stimulus that happens or the change that happens to the body. And then here's the first step, right? And then here's how that affects the next step. And you're seeing it little piece by piece. And so it feels more manageable for the person learning it. And I think another advantage that I have is I'm a teacher. I'm not an anatomist or physiologist or doctor or anything first, and then trying to teach. I'm a teacher first, right? Most of my training and experience is in teaching high school students relatively complex information. And so I think I've developed the skill of trying to take something complex and boiling it down to its like main points, and presenting that in a way that students can follow. And so when I do my videos, I follow that kind of same format. And so I think it's helped make my videos for people who maybe I get a lot of comments where I'm like, where they're like, I've watched 4 videos on this topic and finally this is the one that made it click. Right. And I think a lot of that is from just the way that I've structured the videos and shown things kind of piece by piece. And so that's another kind of this example of, I've heard this idea talked about of like, what's your unique advantage, right? So think about where you are and your experience and your interests and all this thing, and what's something that's unique about you that you can offer. And for me, it's like my combination of teaching experience, my ability to use technology, which and all of these are like, I don't think I'm the best I'm not the best teacher. I'm not the best tech person. I can do a little bit of drawing. I'm not the best artist. So I'm not the best at any of these individual things, but I think I am pretty good at being decent at all of these things and combining them to make a product that people find value in.
Right.
Posting those on YouTube. So
that's definitely a good differentiator. So for those who are totally new to YouTube and want to start a business working with YouTube, how do we make money there? I think people are interested. How do you make money with YouTube? So what is your advice and based on your experience?
Yeah, as far as how to get from like I don't have anything to having a successful channel, that's a
Uh-huh.
great I don't know the answer to that. I know a few principles that I think help though. I think one is to go into it not expecting early quick success. I think it's
Mhm.
easy to if you go on YouTube, you're seeing all the videos and all the people who already have established success, right?
Mhm.
Generally not seeing as often the majority of videos out there which have not very many views, right? So um I think go into it, and even from mine, like I first uploaded a video, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, I forget how long it is, but a lot of years ago. Um and then I started for my students, started making all these videos, and I didn't see I didn't make my first dollar until I'd already made, I don't know, 80, 90 or 100 videos or something.
Mhm.
Um, and I was so I had put a lot of work into it before I ever saw a dollar back, right? Like it wasn't. I don't think YouTube is a good kind of like get rich quick
Mhm.
sort of a thing. I think it's something. I think it's important. Start a YouTube channel if you like making videos and you like sharing stuff. Um, and do it for that. And if you do it for that, and you work to make your stuff better incrementally, um and you don't get discouraged by not having success right away, I think if you continue with it for long enough, you're probably going to be successful and monetize and start making money from it.
Mhm.
But if you expect your first 10 videos, one of them to go viral and get 1 million views and hit monetization right away, maybe you'll win the lottery with that a little bit, but probably not. So, one a friend of mine said, who's a creative person, a really good artist. He said this. He shared this idea with me that really stuck. That's this idea, like keep making great stuff and don't worry too much about how it does, because if you keep making great stuff, something's going to stick and something's going to catch on.
Mhm.
Um, but if you focus on how each individual thing you produce does, then you're going to get discouraged because you don't have any control of how it does, right? Like I've got videos that I made that I think are really good that don't get many views. And I've got some videos that I'm like, this video is kind of okay, and it'll get a ton of views. So
Yeah.
um, I would say, yeah, get the other thing I'd say is just get started with it. Don't wait till you've got everything. Don't You don't have to go out and buy the best camera and the best microphone and the best
Mhm.
this, best that. Upload a video, know that it's going to be just mediocre, and that doesn't matter. Like, get the first one done, make your second one a little bit better, and keep growing from there.
And keep going. That's right. And then in terms of monetization, do you mind sharing the requirements at a high level so people know what it
Yeah,
takes?
that's a great question. I think they've changed it recently. So when
Yeah.
I got monetized, it was 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of watch time
Uh-huh.
in the past year, in the past 12 months. I think, is
Right.
it 500 subs and 3,000 watch hours now,
I
maybe?
think it has changed. Yeah. I don't remember exactly, but I know for sure that there is an option now to to have also shorts. So there is a
Right.
different way to monetize. If you reach, I think, a specific number
Yeah.
of views with shorts plus
Right.
watch hours, I think it's a little bit different there, but there are different metrics now.
Right.
But
Right.
to your point, it initially was 4,000 watch hours, reach 1,000 subscribers
Mhm.
within 12 months,
Right.
within the
Right.
last 12 months.
Yeah. Yeah. The watch hours for me was the harder of the two. I hit a
Was
thousand
tough.
subscribers. Wasn't too hard to get there, but the watch hours was that one I watched it creep up very slowly to get there.
Right.
And even when I hit monetization, I was making $1, $2, $3 a day. So it wasn't
Exactly.
it wasn't a ton. And at that point, I was just like, oh, this is nice. I'm gonna save this money up and and buy something nice for myself.
Right.
And, but it wasn't until it continued to grow and I continued making videos where I was just like, oh, okay, this is getting to the point where like now this um is an amount that's like not insignificant. And so
Mhm.
and it's been great for us. Like right now we've got 2 kids at home. My wife stays home with the kids.
Mhm.
They're 4 and 1. so they're still little, and so just having this like extra income to supplement, my salary at the school, has been really helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So in terms of your services or products, I know you mentioned something about Patreon.
Yeah.
Tell us
So
more about that. What does it mean? How does it work?
yeah. So I'll kind of start with this. With my YouTube, I started making videos just for my students. Then I got to the point where it's like, oh, let me start making videos for YouTube specifically, and I kind of got to a point where I was like, what do I want? How do I want to view YouTube? Is it a hobby, a business? What is this? And so I think I kind of decided that, like, hey, I do want to treat this a little bit more like a business, and start thinking more strategically about like what videos do I make, what are other ways to monetize? Because right now, all of my online income, except for Patreon, which I'm talking about in a minute, is from YouTube. And so if the algorithms stopped recommending my videos, I could start making $0 a day. Like, and that would be completely out of my control. Right.
Right.
And so some advice that I got, was, to find other revenue streams. Right. And so I know there's other ways to do revenue. I know you and I have talked a little bit about like online classes where people can sign up and take a class. They're asynchronous and stuff, where they're watching videos and taking quizzes and that sort of thing. And so I've thought about doing that. I think that for me right now is probably a little bit too heavy of a lift as far as like the time to make those things, but it's something I'm interested in the future. But one thing that I talked to some other YouTubers, of similar size channel as mine about is Patreon. And this YouTuber that I talked to, they're like, yeah, we make like close to $200 a month on Patreon, and they weren't really doing that much with it. There's people were on there, supporting the channel. And so what Patreon is it's a way for people to, give money monthly to a creator that they want to support, and in return they get some extra benefit. For YouTubers, a lot of times it might be like videos released early, or it could be Patreon exclusive videos that they just release on there. It could be extended versions of videos. For me, one of the big things I offer is I've got all of my diagrams for my videos. I've got blank diagrams where you can practice for like studying and stuff, and I've got completed diagrams in the full resolution stuff. Those are all accessible on Patreon. And I've done a few study guides. I do some like behind the scenes updates and stuff. So there's some value that I'm adding there. But I think most of the people that support me on Patreon are just like, hey, here's a channel that I've gotten some value out of, and I want to give some money toward that. And so I'm very thankful to people on there. So I'm making a little bit of money on Patreon. It's not a lot. It's a lot less than I make on the YouTube channel itself through ads that run on the channel. But I've also really enjoyed it because it's a cool way just to like, here's the small group of people who have like gotten out their credit card and are giving me, and my tiers are $5, $10, or $20 a month on Patreon. So they're giving me some money each month, to help me keep producing videos and to try to work toward making this a thing that I can keep doing. So I really like Patreon for that reason, just for the financial part of that, the benefit of that, but then also just like having a group of people that I know are out there like that believe in what I'm doing and want to support that financially, is really cool. So,
this is definitely a really interesting tool to explore for those YouTubers, for sure.
Yeah. And YouTube's moving into the same space. They've got something now called YouTube memberships that they're trying to push more. I've found so far that my Patreon has been more successful than YouTube membership. I've also pushed my Patreon a little bit more. I talk about it more on the channel. But yeah, it's just a way to, and I talk about that a little bit. I'm like, this is not, sometimes I get emails that are like, that are addressed to my team here at Siebert Science or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know what y'all think this is. I don't have a team. The team is me in my spare time when I'm not working or hanging out with family or, all the other stuff that we do. So the team is me part-time, trying to find the time to make a video. But it's just interesting, but I think that people who support me on Patreon get it, that I'm just like, I'm a teacher doing this thing on the side. They're not donating to you know, to a big corporation. They're donating to like
Exactly.
a guy who shares some information on the internet. So
That's good. If we are adding value, it's really rewarding, to receive the type of support.
yeah,
Definitely.
and that's the other thing I'd say. Like, what's another benefit of this YouTube channel and doing educational content and stuff is like
Uh-huh.
I get so much like positive encouragement and like validation in the YouTube comment section. I know the YouTube comment section has this reputation of being like this cesspool of negativity and stuff. And I think there's a lot of content out there that's the case. And I get negative comments here and there. But usually when I get a negative comment, it's just kind of funny or silly. And I'm like, what?
Exactly.
Most, I think 98% of the comments that I get are people who are like, hey, thank you so much for this video. Like I finally got this thing, or thank you so much for your channel. Like I'm using this to get through nursing school right now. Or
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I don't know. I see those comments and it's very encouraging for me to like, I'm like, oh, I need to keep making videos. Cause like there's somebody out there who's trying to learn this other topic that I don't have a video on, and they're looking up and seeing like, oh man, I wish Siebert Science had a video for this thing. And not to say that I've got the best videos out there, because there's other YouTube channels that some people may watch my videos and be like, hey, this isn't working for me. There's other channels out there. But that's the beauty of YouTube, is you can find that information and find it from a person that works best for you.
We got a message from Michelle. Yeah. Thank you, Michelle.
Appreciate it.
Support.
So where I'm at now is just trying to find oh, thank you. Awesome massage school.
That's awesome. See, those type of messages are definitely encouraging. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. The comments we're getting from Michelle here is exactly the stuff I'm talking about. It just encouraged me to try to keep making videos. And right now I'm at the point where, like I said, we got 2 kids at home. I'm working full time. I'm trying to balance, this YouTube stuff that I'm trying to do and creating videos and making them high quality and stuff. I'm trying to balance that with, family time, and making sure that I'm a good dad and a good husband. And, we're at a stage in life right now with the 1-year-old and the 4-year-old that we're kind of just keeping our head above water a little bit. And, so it's been hard to find the time to like keep making videos. And, I want to crank out a video each week if I could, but I just have to remind myself that this stage of life that we're in right now, that's okay. That I'm not creating those at the pace that I want, but I'm still enjoying it. That's the direction I want to go is to keep creating more and trying to find. Right now, I'm focused on trying to find ways to automate the process a little bit more, where videos aren't taking me so much time. And I haven't figured out exactly how to do that yet. But that's kind of where my brain is right now, trying to find other apps or programs or just like processes to where I can make the videos quicker without having to spend so much time researching and drawing and all that kind of stuff. How do I make them quicker? But I don't want to fall into like, let me just throw out a crappy video that's, or not even a crappy video, but like a video that's not a Siebert Science video, like I don't want to make a video where it's just like, here's the diagram all at once, let me talk about it. Right. Cause then suddenly I'm like, okay, now I'm just creating something that's already out there. That's probably not adding the same benefit that the videos I've created are.
Right. But, definitely. So in terms of advice, what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are just starting out on YouTube? Do you have a specific piece of advice for them?
Yeah. For starting entrepreneurs, I don't know that I have very good advice because I didn't start out as an entrepreneur, and I think that even the idea of starting out to be an entrepreneur like sounds like a lot of pressure to me, because it's like, especially if somebody's like, I'm quitting my job to go to start a business. I have a former roommate of mine did that and started a coffee business, and he made great coffee, and ended up having a successful business. But I just remember he's sold the business since then and has gone on to some other things. But I just remember just like the stress that he felt doing that. He was trying to save money. but also like investing a lot of money into the business. I think I feel like I'm not quite answering your question, but maybe sharing some nuggets of wisdom here too. I think one nice thing about creating stuff online is that there's a little bit less risk, So if we're starting YouTube, like what do you have to lose? Like, if you've got a phone, you can create a YouTube video, right?
Right.
Right. And if you've got a phone and a computer, then you can create a YouTube video and you can edit it. Right. And you can even do that on the phone some too. That seems like it would be a little bit trickier, but you can do that. You can do that on the phone. If you've got a phone and a computer and then you buy a microphone, then you can create an edited YouTube video with good sound quality. Right. So there's not a lot of barriers to entry in YouTube. And so I think my advice would be to like get started, get that first video out of the way, get it uploaded. And then keep making videos, and don't think too hard about it initially. Wait till you've gotten some videos out there and you figured out what you like to create. Once you figured out what you like to create, then you can kind of focus on like leveling up and improving and stuff. But early on, I think you can just create videos on whatever it is that you're interested in at the time. It's not until a little bit later on where you need to figure out like what's your niche. Before you have any subscribers, YouTube doesn't know who to recommend you to, so they're just going to throw you out to whoever. Once you've got a good following, right? Right now I've got I think 89,000 subscribers. So I've got, and a majority of them have subscribed because of anatomy videos. So I know if I create an anatomy video and post it, I'm going to get some views. If I create a video on any other topic, I may or may not get any views on that. So it's like once you've grown a little bit, now you're kind of locked into your niche a little bit. But early on starting out, create some videos, figure out what you like to create, figure out what works, figure out if there's something that gains some traction with your audience, and then go from there. And then you can figure out the business side of it, a little bit later.
Right. Yeah. Share it. Just share it with the world, and you never know what will happen. Right. It's just a matter of getting started. Cool. Thank you. So just to wrap this up, do you have anything else that you would like to add? Perhaps new projects or anything else that you would like to add?
Yeah. New projects. I don't have too many new projects. I was emailing with somebody about a brand deal, like a sponsored video. So I haven't done that yet, but that's kind of maybe a new area that I'm thinking about. But I want to make sure that if I'm like getting money to share a product, that's a product that I really believe in. So, but I haven't really delved into that much at this point. I think Patreon's still an area that I'm wanting to grow that. I've had a few people who have like joined the Patreon and then seen like the amount of content that I have on there, that it's not a ton yet, and then they're kind of like, oh, this isn't what I thought, and then they may unsubscribe. So I'm trying to like work on getting some more good stuff up there, but also just trying to maintain a healthy life balance right now. And I've been doing some goal setting and that sort of thing, and trying to do all that. But I think all of that kind of stuff, improving other areas of my life, will help with YouTube, because I'm gonna have more energy to create videos and all that kind of stuff. Other new projects, I'd say like I'm just trying to focus on creating videos. So if people have video ideas, I'm always getting comments like, hey, you should make a video on this. Keep those coming. Those are helpful, especially if I get multiple people recommending, hey, create a video on this. I'm more likely to kind of jump to that next.
Yeah, that's cool. So, share your feedback, folks.
Yeah.
Share your feedback. Awesome. So where can people find your products, your services, your courses, your courses?
Yeah. The main two things that I would share, one is my YouTube channel. So youtube.com/Siebert Science. Or if you just Google Siebert Science YouTube, it'll pop right up. So that would be the number one thing. You can find my videos in playlists on there and stuff. Another place, if you're looking for all of my videos and want to see them like organized really well by human body system and stuff, where you can see all of them and find them better. My website has them all organized, and it's they're organized better on there than they can on YouTube.
SiebertScience.com.
SiebertScience.com. or also justinmsiebert.com. Both of those will take you to the same place. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, siebertscience.com will take you. And then if you click on the tab for
So
science,
do you have it open so you can share it?
Oh yeah, I can pull it up real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me do the share present thing on here. All right, let me know, Nestor, if you can see. Awesome. Yeah, so this is my website. A fun thing about my logo was designed by a former student who took my anatomy class.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's a really talented artist and logo designer. He's designed some pretty cool logos here and for some businesses here in Memphis. And I messaged him and said like, hey, would you be up for redesigning a logo to create this logo with the neuron and stuff? Yeah, so here's my website. If you go here to the science videos and resources tab, and then you click on anatomy physiology, here's kind of all of my videos organized by system. And so you can see all of those there. There might be a few I need to update on here. And if you click on where it says resource page, then it'll take you to any other resources I have. Of course, I clicked on one that doesn't have a lot of other resources on it. There's a couple of things on there. So that's on there. I've got my blog, which my rule for my blog is I can post anything I want on here and it can whatever I'm interested in. So I've got some different lessons that I've taught that I've kind of done reflections on and stuff. I've got a post about my Patreon and my Patreon tiers on there, which have an anatomy theme. I've also written some short fiction. I haven't written much in a while because I've kind of tried to focus on YouTube, but I've written some short stories that have gotten published, so you can read some of those on there. A place to support me. If you want to buy some Siebert Science merch with the old logo, I need to add some shirts and stuff with the new logo or some other organs and stuff on there, but I haven't gotten around to that yet. Or if you want to read a little bit about me. So that's my website. But the main thing on there that you'll find is those science videos and resources. And a lot of times I'll have people just like, so let me stop sharing. I'll have people that'll just like email me and say, hey, I'm trying to learn this thing. Do you have anything to share? And so if I've got something and I get an email like that, I'll share it. And,
that's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not to the point. Sometimes I get a comment on YouTube that's like, I don't know if you'll ever see this, but blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't get so many comments that I get enough comments that I can't respond to all of them. But I get few enough comments that I definitely read each one of them. I get an email every time I get a comment and I'll read it and see what it says. And but there's also a place where you can send me a message via the website as well, and I get those and try to always respond to those. So
awesome, thank you. So how can people connect with you in addition to the website and YouTube channel?
In addition to those, I guess I'm on Instagram.
Okay.
Justin Siebert. I'm not super active on Instagram. I post every once in a while. I'd say the best place to follow me is YouTube and the website. But yeah, I'm on Instagram and
Twitter.
I'm on Twitter, or X, which feels weird to call it that. So I'm on there too.
Now that's awesome. Well, this was a great interview. Thank you again for your time, Justin. I know you're a busy person, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate what you're doing with the Stunning Entrepreneur and just sharing stories and everything. And I've just appreciated too. For those of you watching that don't know this, Nestor lives in the same neighborhood as I do. So
we are neighbors. Yes.
Yeah. So our daughters hang out and stuff sometimes, and but I've appreciated Nestor just having somebody else to talk to about YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
And because I feel like I don't have a lot of people to share about
YouTube. Yeah.
The ins and outs of YouTube's and the struggles and the successes and all that. So I appreciate that and appreciate you having me on the show.
Of course. And then for those who want to support you, hit the subscribe button at Siebert Science on YouTube.
That's right.
For sure. All right. Thank you again. Thank you guys for your time, and talk to you next time.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you all.